before you tell me what you thought of it now, what did you think of it coming into this recent viewing?
Um, it's a movie that's very nostalgic for me. I saw it many, many times back on cable back in the 80s. I always enjoyed it. It's not my favorite Stephen King one, but it's got its charm. I thought it was okay, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I read the book a long time ago, and I remember from the book it was very disjointed in that there were so many storylines that played into the plot, the main plot, in no way at all. And I think that kind of hampers the first half of this movie in that there's a lot of storylines that kind of go nowhere. And once they get trapped in the car, it's like how much of the things that we saw leading up to them being trapped in the car played into the last half of the movie, you know?
Well, that's pretty much it because I mean, obviously the crux of this movie is them trapped in a car by this giant Saint Bernard, but how do you pad that out over 90 minutes?
And with Stephen King, I'm not sure like if you've read any of his books or how many you've read, but his books are generally long. And with this one in particular, there was just so many subplots that it's just like, okay, like where's this going? What is the point of this? What does this have to do with a rabid dog? I kind of forgive the filmmakers for a disjointed, kind of boring first half because with the material they had to work with, I don't know how, for instance, one of the major subplots was the dad works in advertising. And one of the big problems with his job was he had this really great ad campaign with their like the guy they had to do it. I think it was like an old actor or something. And he was like the spokesperson for the cereal. And the cereal, the dye in the cereal made kids, I think it was red dye that made them poop red poo. And the parents thought that they were like bleeding out of their butts. And it was just a red dye. And I don't know if you followed the Burger King stuff, but I think Burger King used to do like color themed buns for Halloween.
Oh yeah, yeah, I had one of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did those black, yes, and I can tell you that yes, it works.
So this is something that's happened in real life, you know? Um, but yeah, that was a huge subplot, and him leaving the family to go deal with it and dealing with his boss and then his partner that he did the campaign with and how they're going to handle it. And that has nothing to do with, you know, Cujo or them being trapped in the car. And that takes up a lot of the book. There's also the family that owns Cujo, the Cambers,
Mhm.
and there's a huge subplot with the father mechanic being very abusive, and then the mother winning the lottery, wanting to take the son on vacation to see the sister, them wanting to leave the father, and then the kid not really wanting to adjust, and her trying to give him like a croissant, and it was just like I'm like, where's this going? You get I was just so caught up in the weeds. I'm like, wait a minute, is this family the main family then? Are they the ones we're following? Because they just took up so much of the story. And again, they leave town. They have nothing to do with Cujo at that point, or the dog, or anything. Then there's a subplot of the mechanic with his buddies, and him wanting to take his buddies to Boston and go drinking and gambling and hookers and all this crazy shit again that has nothing to do with Cujo. And you can, like I said, I don't know if you're familiar with the book at all, but
No, not at all.
these things were touched on in the first half of the movie. They weren't delved into because what's the point of delving further into it? Because once they get trapped in the car, none of that shit matters, you know? So it's kind of like, I don't know, the first half of the film, I don't blame the filmmakers, but it wasn't good in my opinion. Did anything in that first half of the film or before they get trapped in the car interest you? Did it keep your attention? Was there anything there?
Well, I'm going to agree with you that it really had nothing to do with the actual plot of the movie, other than I guess they were setting up reasons why uh, this woman and her son are going to be trapped there by themselves. Husband's out of town, so he can't take the car. The family and the Cambers aren't going to be around because they left to go hang out with the sister and the father, although he does get killed.
Cujo. Oh my God, you rabbit. Easy, boy. Easy, Cujo. No, Cujo! Cujo, no!
He wasn't planning to stick around either. So, if anything, it was just there to set up why these two are going to be there stuck by themselves.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and they went further too, because they did set up, he went to a more local mechanic and couldn't get it fixed there. So he had to go out of his way to get to the Cambers. And they did set up the mailman not being able to go back because he knew they were out of town.
George,
Yep.
hold mail until notified for the Cambers. Remember, George?
My mind's going.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Roger. Save me a trip.
Yeah, there were a few things that they did set up, but Jesus, that wasn't much for like 45 minutes to an hour, to take up. I in the book, there was one subplot I liked, and that was the stuff with the gigolo. He was like really mean-spirited and vindictive in the book, and he was like really an asshole when she tried to end the relationship. I thought if they would have made him more of a villain, then that would have gave you someone to root against a little bit, at least for the first half, until you're hoping the dog doesn't kill them. What do you think of that character, that subplot? Do you think they could have did more with that?
Again, I'm not even sure why it's even there, to be honest with you. I don't know. I'm guessing you're probably aware in real life, those two were married, Dee Wallace and Christopher Stone. They actually co-starred in The Howling together also. But there really was no reason for him to be there for that whole subplot with the affair going on. Even when the father comes home at some point and he enters the house, and there's a lot of dramatic music and such as he runs up the stairs to find that the house has been trashed, ransacked. I was like, this has nothing to do with anything.
And there was no tension because we knew that the gigolo didn't take the family. So it's like, why the dramatic music? Why all of this, pomp and circumstance? We already know he has nothing to do with it. I did find that interesting in the book because they did. I find that whole cheating and the father wanting to stay for the kid and to keep the family together.
Donna's been having an affair. Before I left, she told me she had quit it. But Roger, she hasn't answered the phone in 2 days.
I felt that tension, and that works in a lot of dramas. It works. I mean, it's something that's interesting in real life. Like, you think, what would you do? So I thought there was something to work with there. But you're right. Even if they developed it more, like, it really wouldn't have mattered once they got trapped in the car.
So yeah, it had nothing to do with the actual plot of the dog, and it's just filler, pretty much.
Yeah.
Maybe this film could have worked better as a short film or 55 minutes or something. Who knows?
Or maybe it could have just started with them in the car, and maybe throw in some flashbacks. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, leading up to why they're there or something like that. But the structure of the whole thing didn't work. But once they were in the car, did you think, did that part of the movie, the second half, did that hold you at all, or was it really just?
Yeah, no, it held me enough. I mean, again, I don't think this is the greatest Stephen King adaptation, but there's a lot of nostalgia in this one for me because I saw it when I was a young kid and it resonated a little more. I don't know if it quite stands up to the test of time, but I felt for the characters and I want to know how are they going to get out of this situation because it's a tough situation. If you're thrown into that in real life, what are you going to do? You got this rabid dog right outside and you can't go anywhere. And you're running out and you have no water. You're suffering. It's hot, whatever.
Yeah. What's funny is that there's actually enough material in the book that they could have made the whole movie, maybe like a 90-minute movie of them trapped in the car, just shave off 10 minutes and keep it there. Because there was, I think I mentioned to you before, spoiler for the book, but the kid dies in the book.
Yeah, you
And
mentioned
there's a whole starvation thing where they brought food, they brought snacks, but the kid wants to eat all the snacks all at once. And then the mother kind of has an idea that they're going to be trapped there for a while. So they're like kind of ration out the food. There were things they could have done to make it more like a Castaway type thing, where it's like, yeah, you have um, Tom Hanks stuck in that island, and really the whole movie was on the island. It's like you can put someone in that bottle situation and make it like 90% of the movie. You don't have to give like 45 minutes of like build up to get there. So, but what made you watch it multiple times if it was kind of like not the greatest movie in the world?
Well, again, when you're a kid, it was just one of those movies that everybody saw. I think I was in middle school when that came out on cable, and Stephen King was really at the height of his fame, at least in terms of making movies and such during the 80s, and everybody loved all of his stuff. So if there was a new Stephen King movie, everybody had to watch it, and because it was on so many times, we watched it every time. We watched these movies over and over again.
Mhm. Yeah, because I guess Carrie may have been the first big one for him in the late 70s. And then just as the 80s began, you had The Shining, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And this was
Yeah,
a couple years later.
yeah, and Salem's Lot also, which is uh, one of my all-time favorite movies. Came out in '79, I think, and in the '80s you had Children of the Corn, and you had Cujo, and you had Christine. They were all kind of back to back, and they were just pumping these out left and right. And as a kid in that age, we all loved them. We just loved stuff like that. And anything with Stephen King's name attached to it was something that everybody had to see.
What did you think of the kid in the film? I read some reviews online, and a lot of people were annoyed by him. What I found interesting is that he was a lot more annoying in the book, because he kept nagging the mother as she was trying to figure out ways to escape. I thought coming from the book to the movie, I thought his part was kind of like small, like because he didn't really say or do a ton. What did you think of his character?
I thought, well, first of all, I thought his acting was good. I thought he was very believable with his screams and everything else in the car. Character-wise, I wasn't overly annoyed by him. I mean, he was in real life a 6-year-old kid. I mean, and sometimes 6-year-old kids are going to be annoying.
Yeah, yeah, he's actually the kid in an '80s sitcom, Who's the Boss, with Lisa
Correct.
Milano. Yeah, I
Correct.
found him
I,
annoying in that, but I thought he like you. I thought he was pretty good in this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I did too. Was this his first film? I can't remember. Probably,
I think
probably
it
pretty
might be,
close, if
but
not.
it might be. Yeah, if it's not, it might be. And a year later, I think he got Who's the Boss, and then he did that
Right.
for like into the early '90s. So, um, but yeah, not the greatest movie in the world. I'd only seen this once, and I'd read the book after I saw it, so I was expecting a lot more from it. I don't know why, but it was kind of disappointing. I wish they would have went campier with it, made it more like Children of the Corn instead of trying to make it like The Shining or even Carrie, like more serious. And maybe then it would have been a little bit more fun. But I did think the dog stuff was good. The way they shot it, with the cinematography, they did the best they could to make it look realistic. I thought that was the best part of the film.
Oh, yeah, the dog stuff was great. I fully believable. Apparently, I didn't notice this, but apparently, in filming this, they had to tie the dog's tail down because the dog was having fun and was excited, so he was wagging its tail and having a good time. They didn't want to show that on camera, but apparently it got on there at least one time. But I didn't see it. But yeah, no, I thought the dog was totally believable.
From here up, they look like they're going to absolutely, eat you to death. From here down, we had to tie their tails in all the long shots because their tails were going like this because they were going to get their toy, you know.
Apparently they were putting toys, like the dog's favorite toys, in the car to make it jump up on the window and try to get in, and the dog looked good too. It was, I've never seen a rabid dog before, but that's what I picture a rabid dog should look like, all messed up in the face like that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the only other rabid dog movie I remember was Old Yeller, but they didn't
Sure.
really show him much, and that was a pretty good one as well. Very different tone, obviously. But yeah, I thought the dog stuff was pretty good. I thought he looked pretty menacing. How strong the dog was really inconsistent. I mean, at one point he's like ramming the car, about to knock it over, and then at other points, like the window's halfway open, and with those old type of cars with the wind-up windows, where you like wind the thing to like make the window come up. Once it's halfway down, you can almost push it down with your hand. It's not really that hard to like open it. So this consistency of his strength was kind of all over the place.
I would have thought it would have shattered too halfway. I mean, you could see it was moving. So those windows aren't as strong as some people think they are. I think it would have shattered. That was a big dog.
Yeah, yeah. It was almost like an Ed Wood film at one point, where it's like, you know, like when you have those cardboard doors or walls and an actor accidentally leans on them and you see they're kind of flimsy. The mother rested her hand on the window, and it started to slide down a little bit in one part. I'm like, ugh, she probably edited that out, you know. It kind of makes the whole dog stuff look a little less menacing after that. But yeah, I mean, I thought Dee was good. Dee Wallace in the lead role. She played the mother in a lot of '80s stuff. I think in Critters, E.T., and some other stuff. I thought this was a good turn for her.
Yeah, The Howling was the first time I ever saw her. When it's one of my all-time favorite movies. So.
Yeah, this is a pretty simple movie. Not much else to say on my end. Any final thoughts on this?
No, there's like you said, it is a simple movie. There's not much to it. It is what it is. It's just it's a family or a kid and a mom trapped by a dog in a car. There's not a lot of deep levels here.
Yeah, not much to analyze. I wouldn't say it's like one of those so bad it's good. I would say the first half is just legitimately bad. There's some tension in the second half. I would just recommend it for like a Stephen King completionist. If you like his movies, and you want to be a completionist, it's worth seeing. Otherwise, I don't think it's anything that anyone should go out of their way to see. What about you?
You're probably right. Again, I have the nostalgic feel for it, so I just feel differently about it. I can understand it's not the greatest film in the world, but to me, it's something that I saw so many times, and I remember the dialogue, and it's something that I just want to refresh myself with every few years or so, just because I saw it so many times as a kid.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this is something that's worth another remake, or do you think they should leave it as is?
I could see this being remade, and they could probably do a better job with it. But again, what do you do with such a simple premise? Unless you, like you said, this might work better as a short. Do you need all that filler, all that background stuff? I don't think you do.
Yeah. Or just, start it off like Saw or Castaway or all the, other movies where it's like you just start off in the thick of things.
Right.
And you can show flashbacks or cutaway scenes or something like that. But yeah, otherwise, I guess a mild recommendation from you and a from me. Yeah. But hopefully we'll come out with something better next week. And there you have it.
All right. Sounds good.